Test 1, 2. Hey, good day, good day. I'd like to welcome you to Rez Talk Wekoqmaq edition. My name is Darcy Google, and today I'm your host. And for years I've been saying that we need a place to have long form discussions about the everyday issues that surround us, and here I am. So if you're listening and you're curious about what's going on, and if you have any input yourself, please get a hold of me. And if you want to talk, we can talk, and I could arrange for guests to come here and share their stories. And it doesn't have to be all serious too. But today I'm going to be talking about land claims. This is relative because I've seen on the social media some people are curious about that. So let's do it, baby. We're going to talk about that and see where we can see if I can get some people's minds thinking about the greater picture, eh? Because right now everybody's thinking money, 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 money. Oh, it's nice. Oh yeah, it's inflation. It's hard to get a fridge full of food nowadays. So we need to have that money. But we need to be. We need to be more conscious about the reality of the situation, what happened. We need to understand what took place and what was taken from us. Sure, yes, morsel of land was taken from us, morsels of land. And I served in council, a few terms, and I looked into this. It's nothing new, and it's been ongoing since the 80s. Actually, before we even get into the meat and potatoes, I have to explain to most people that are going to be listening to this of how this thing unfolded. Back in the 80s, under the leadership of Rod Google, our chief, our previous chief actually, he served multiple terms and multiple generations. OG dude. But he's the one that initiated this claim. The court and the government, or the courts recognized that and the government accepted that they were owed, that the land that they took, that they never paid. So they recognized it as the first official land claim. I'm not mistaken. I so botched that up. I hope that made sense. But anyway, Wekoqmaq's land claim case was the first recognized one in the courts. That goes back, I think, 1990, if I'm not mistaken, or 89. This will probably come out when we meet in September as a community. So the government said, yes, you're right. We messed up. We do owe you guys. We'll have to start the negotiations to figure out what we owe you, because they couldn't really put a financial price tag on what was owned, because this thing took place in the late 1800s. Reservists here, even before Canada was a nation. We were already allocated here, and these people. It's said that they slowly crouched over the land that we weren't fully utilizing, but I think that they just walked in and took it, and they had a meeting in Halifax with no representation from our people, because we didn't have any at that time. And they decided amongst themselves that the Indians that live on the land on there won't use it for their purposes, and we need it, so we'll just take it and compensate them for them. And they claim that they had set up a trust. So, we weren't able to do it ourselves during those times. That's what they claim. So I'm talking about the village here. You go from the wharf, even the park. The park wasn't even the park at that time. It was the only way you got here. So you go to the provincial park, you get to the Legion, you get to the waterfront where the bank is, You get all the way from across the highway. The highway is off limits, by the way, but the highway, and then just a few sections of land across the highway in front of the water, and it goes all the way from that side to Roseburn, where the bridge is down Diane's Lane. If you look at it on Google Earth, you can see it. They call it Indian River. The whole river goes up. Sky River, we call it. It's known to us as Sky River now, but back then it was Indian River. So pretty much all the land that is on, or the river that goes on the reserve side of the land, on both sides, was all Unuigadi. Huh? So back then they took it from us, and they said they gave us money for it, and they put it in trust, and they left it with us, and we have no records of that at all. So none of that it was a complete lie. They just they met. It's all documented who was there, and I've seen the documentations. But it was documented that the premier and the MLA and whoever was the local politicians at the time were the ones that signed off on it in Halifax. So that's the information that Wekoqmaq has, and approached to the government and told them, this is proof right here where we were supposed to be. And when you look at the village now, you could see where all the buildings are, how old they are, and who they are, what's there, the school, the bank, the post office. So all that infrastructure, all that layout, back then used to be critical to the economy because of how the shipping lanes came in when people were coming in with their boats and stuff. So that land was far more valuable than we can imagine, because right now we see the roads and the highways and the cars. That's how it used to be back in the old days. So they took prime real estate from us. So the court recognized, so they seen the documents, they recognized, all right, man, you guys are right. You're right. We're going to talk about this. And whatever happens. Politics. A new leadership is elected in. He decides, I don't think I'm going to push this land claims case any further, so he put it on the back burner. So nobody really properly went after the government for these settlements from the early 90s until Rod got elected back in the last election. The first election he came in, he brought up all his documents and said, listen, we're going to go back to the government and see what they have to say now. Because at that time it was 20-something plus years into 2010. 25 years roughly after the initial case that they accepted. And then that's what we know today as the land claim settlements, is that the land was taken from us, and we're trying to put a monetary value and then look for a compensation to make up for all that money that we lost from that land we would have owned if we were on it today. Does that make sense? So imagine if we were like the bankers, or we controlled the wharf, or we had the Legion, or all of that stuff. That could have been us. We would have been more further ahead as a nation. So that's what I feel like is the most important thing here. Land is nice. The land is prime real estate, and we'll never get that back. So we need to accept the reality that the damage is done, the land's taken. Like the same thing can be said for the highways too, eh? And when I met with the government of Canada, when we brought this back up, that's the first thing they told us, that the highway's untouchable. They figured that out legally long time ago when they first laid it down, eh? So that's like there was other First Nations that tried to attack the government on that basis, but they told us basically that the highway is already has been sectioned off, but aside from the highway, whatever lands were contested, we can negotiate. The government's pretty greasy though. That they have a tactic, where first of all, when we met, we weren't technically negotiated. We were just trying to figure out what information they had and what information we had, and what steps we can take forward to start the negotiations. Oh boy! And if we agreed at that moment to enter negotiations, we would have fell under their terms, And it was the Harper government at that time who set the terms. They were actually trying to speed up the process to settle all these disputes across Canada for the lands, because we're not the only one. Wekoqmaq was the first to initiate this, but other bands followed suit in the process over the time since then. And the government has been negotiating and settling with other bands and other reserves, because this isn't the only place that this happens. This is, obviously. Like we hear stories of what happened with Waggy settled. They settled on Middle River on that side. We hear up on Lishtagush, they had a big settlement once. But that's how they handled it. Is how they handled it. This is completely localized within our area because it just affects our ancestors. Right. So, dude, man, when I first ran before we even went to negotiations, before we got to that point, before I even knew I understood any of this, I had a wise man, an elder, come up to me and tell me about land claims and gave me a heads up. And he told me, Darce, if you ever get in, man, don't settle for money. Money doesn't last long. It comes and goes. It's a currency. It collapses. It's designed to collapse. It's temporary. Is it land? Land will be there forever. Land is there. Land has been there. The land is there today. It doesn't exchange. So if you ever enter any type of situation where you're talking about land claims, don't settle for money. Settle for land, or think bigger than something that we can just exchange. And I'm thankful for that conversation, because it made me realize too that certain things, material stuff, don't matter. The original people that the land was taken from they're not around today. They're our grandparents and some of us. But majority of people that are trying to even claim that they're entitled to some of this money, and I'm not throwing heat at nobody, because I'm part of this too, because my ancestors weren't here during my grandparents moved here, right? But we have a say, I think anyway, to have an impact of where this goes. And what I mean is that when we agree to settle this, we're agreeing to a permanent thing. And it's to my understanding that a land claim settlement is a modern day treaty, So when Wekoqmaq, our community, agrees to accept to the terms of the settlements, it'll be locked in for life. For life, dog. For our kids there, forever. As long as that the world is intact or whatever, government, our community, whatever. The infrastructure. So we just can't say, all right, we'll settle for $50,000 each, or yada yada yada. I think we got to really, try to pay the future for our future generations. This is what I think personally, and I think we need to have a talk about this with everybody, the high elders, from the highest elders to the youth, and figure out how everything unfolded back then, how the governments are reacting today, and what took place in between and what's going to happen in the future. Like sure we can get like X amount of money and then we'll be happy for a number of years, but after that money's gone, what are we going to have? Because that's years and years and years of growth they took away from us. Like I think anyway. So we need to think of, adding back to that year. We need to think of bringing growth to our future generations, our kids, grandkids, and them. They need to benefit off this in the long term as much as we benefit off it in the short term. So yes, we can get a few bucks. It'd be nice. Oh, I would love to have money right now. I'm particularly, personally, financially in the worst possible situation for anybody. Yeah, I would love to take some money in a heartbeat to, do the things I need to do, things I want. But I'm not going to trade it off for at the expense of my kids and their kids and their kids and their kids. So here we are. What am I talking about now? What are we talking about? The land claims and what we're going to settle for. And I don't think we should settle for money. I think we should settle for freedom, for the freedom for us to do whatever we need to make our people sovereign. Sovereign. That's the word they say. I'm not good with this word. It's a very foreign word for me, but it's relative because it just means that we will be independent. We'll be our own people, and that's what we want to be. Oh, Darius, what do you mean? What do you mean? Blah blah blah. Sovereign. Don't mean anyone, man. Well, what I mean is that we were here prior to the government. That our people we're the original caretakers of this land. And we want to be who we originally were, what our purpose was meant for, to take care of this land. And how can we do that with just by negotiating on monetary settlements? That's not taking care of the land. So that, we're not going to be doing what we're originally, our purpose in our creation. My 2 cents. And we need to have this discussion in great detail as long as it takes. We've been waiting 100 something years already for this, and 20 something years since the government accepted this. Yeah, we're waiting that long, but everybody should have a say, and everybody should think about the implications, because it's not just a quick fix. I'll tell you what I think we could do anyway. I'll give you a little insight so that I don't think I'm just talking out my rear end here. But what I think we should do is they should give us some land back somewheres, some prime real estate land that's relative to our needs. For example, say we're in a energy crisis now, So what if the government agreed to let us agreed to give us land for us to extract resources to help alleviate these energy needs, or whatever needs it is. It could be any resources. But a lot of resources now go through are heavily regulated and taxed by the province, right? So it's not just something it's not like we could just go up there and do anything we want. And that's the problem with today's world, is that the province has a stranglehold on what goes on in this province, and it limits our capacity. Like Nova Scotia Power, for example. They own everything in this province. They own all of the electricity, and that's why we don't see there's no other competing companies that bring energy in. And I think that's something that we need to look at is quit relying on the province and that corporation for our own electricity. We should we should create our own, and we should even compete with them, and we should sell it. But under the regulations and all the laws that the beast created, it's a damn near impossibility. It's the same thing could be with dairy, cheese, poultry, trade. Like there's tariffs, the government's put between borders, to make it difficult for trade, And that applies to us. Oh, we have Nedigalum, sure we do, but Nedigalum is very localized, and it relies heavily on the resources and being respectful for the resources. So it's nowhere near capable of, providing energy or huge subsistence for our communities. And I mean, not just Wekoqmaq, I mean like Wekoqmaq or the surrounding communities. Huh? So I think land claim negotiations are a way for us to break through these barriers that these people put in our place. So like we push back, we tell the government, all right, we want X amount of acres for this area of land in this spot, wherever it may be. I'm not negotiate, I'm just putting a hypothetical scenario in right now. For example, say if we wanted 100 acres of lands to use to create extra reserve lands, for example, for our people. Say if we wanted 100 acres and 500 acres in the Highlands, for example. All right, we'll take a section of the Highlands, government, for our purposes, for whatever we want to do with it. And there's nothing you can say about what goes on there. And that'll be a start. That'll be the start of negotiations where they agree to let us do what we want with the land that we require. And I think that's the most important thing. Because they're going to try to distract us with money. They're going to tell us, here, take this money. Never mind everything else. You just be happy with that. And we'll all that land we took from you, all the stuff that, the capacity that you could have generated, all that's, $50,000 each. Here you guys go, man. There you go. No, that don't fly with me, not at all. And here I am, recording this on a podcast to explain to people. I talked about this in great detail when I campaigned, but I can talk about this. It's going to take about a half hour, I say, before I get to where I'm going with this. So it takes up a lot of work, a lot of time. So this is going to be recorded. I'm going to put this on YouTube, and it'll be accessible to anybody who wants to listen and come back here and draw from this. And I want you to correct me too. I'm not 100% right on this. This is my interpretations of what I've been through. What I'm learning, and I've been outside of that. I haven't heard much about land claims, truthfully, since I was in council myself, and that was 10 years. 10 years. It'll be 10 years next year that I haven't seen any of the documentations or heard anything about this. So this is outdated, because the last time I negotiated or looked at any information, the Harper government was in place. That's when we officially talked about it. And when the Trudeau government got in, they didn't listen to us till now, until the this current chief and council are dealing with it. But I haven't heard anybody talk about the real implications behind it, the wisdom and stuff, like from elders to young people. I haven't heard anybody really talk about it. I just hear people say, I want money, I want a settlement, I need this. Them things are nice, guys. I understand why we need them. But there's other things that we need to do too as a nation before we can really gain our identity back. Because we don't want to be the smallest branch on the government tree. We want to be our own. That's what I think anyway. That's who we are. We're the caretakers of this land. I think that's the whole point of it, in my honest opinion. I mean, like, what purpose do you see our owners here? Like, what do you think? I'm just asking you guys this now, and I want people to answer me in the comment section or in real life when you see me. Email me, Just let me know what you think our purpose is, and why you think we need to be aggressive on this subject. Land claims. Oh, there's a lot going on, folks. We're in a situation now too where it's hard to even share news and keep people informed, and that's why I'm here too, because I'm going to be doing other things other than talk about res politics. I love them. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to be talking about this a lot, but I'm going to be talking about other news, world news that's relative to what's going on here, right? National news, and the fun stuff too, arts, spirituality, culture. If anybody has anything to say and anything to put forward, please come to me. We'll record it. We'll have a good conversation, and we can put it online for other people to listen. Maybe they can learn from it, We're all in this together, and I know I'm definitely opinionated too much on certain things on my social media if you follow me. But I have to put it down to get people thinking. I never say anything personal. I don't slander anybody. I don't say anything negative. I just explain. I'm trying to be real, truthful on how I see stuff. Yeah, but I guess I'm just rambling now. Yeah. So, yeah, we're going to be going into negotiations, or we're going to be talking about going into negotiations. I don't know what. I think they're going to see what the community wants to do, eh? But, I think we need to get together and talk about it before we even get together to talk about it. I wish I had all that that information at my fingertips I had back in the old days when I was at the meetings. If I was smart, I would have held on to them. But, when that ship sank, I just walked away from it. Yeah. I gave up, man. I walked away. No use hanging on to it, I figured. But I'm sure that information is still there. It's available to the counselors now. I'm sure they have copies of it. I don't understand why there's no copies of that information floating around for us to access. But the same thing could be said about all the other documents that they keep from us. Gaming agreement, tobacco agreement, just to name a few. The policies, how they keep everything confidential. They don't share all that stuff with us. Land claims. So what are your thoughts, folks? I want you to think what we are entitled to. It looks like my time is up. Okay. All right, I'm back. I thought it was done here. I thought my ride was here to pick me up. It was actually my niece. She was here to pick something up. Anyway, I've been rambling, jambling, scrambling, bambuling, ambulance. Okay, I'm just rhyming now. Don't make no goddamn sense. As I was asking, before I said I'm done. I'm not done. I'm going to close this off. I have to actually make a few remarks on some of the commentaries I've been making on social media for anybody interested. But before I get to that, I'm going to have to finish off and ask you guys, what do you think we should be entitled to for the settlements? What are your thoughts on that? Leave them in the comments section. Email me and let me know. I'm going to be I think we should schedule a few little meetings to get together to talk about this. So if you're interested in learning more, if you have information regarding the subject too, I know people have input. Why don't we get together and talk about it? We could record it if we want. It could be offline, it could be online, don't matter to me. I just want us to talk, get together, figure out what we can make out of this situation we have. Because this is a golden opportunity, in my opinion. And the more we talk about it, the more we can understand how significant we are in this today's crazy world. So earlier when I said that I have to do house items, clear house items, I talked about my Facebook status where I deleted promptly. I had to. I felt bad. I tagged one of the directors of the band office in it. But truthfully, I feel like it was justified, because the chief, in one of the latest announcement made, she told us to enforce, to call the Crime Stoppers for drugs or traffickers or anything that is going on with other people's houses, Which I understand. Yes, the law has a role in this situation, but I'm not really in favor for snitching on my neighbor for them trying to make a living, and then I have to deal with the consequences of snitching. If I'm going to be putting, if my information I put forward is going to put my neighbor in jail, he's going to get worked up and figure out what's going on. He'll figure it out eventually. When he gets out of jail, he's going to be mad. He's like, this guy took this away from me, and that'll be how the fallout will remain if we were to continue going with the precedents that the chief has made about the situation. The same thing could be applied for housing policies, when people are breaking the rules and being disruptive, partying, fighting, that type of stuff. And they, I was in a situation yesterday where I got involved directly. The people that were in the house, they were fighting, literally fighting over a bottle, and I yelled, I said, "Get the fuck out of here, man. I said, stop it right now," I yelled. And the guy went after me. "I'm not fucking scared of you, blah, blah, blah," Like, "Get out of here, man. I'm not scared of you either, man. Get out of here before I alert the authorities, man. I'll call the cops." And he walked away. But, he threatened. He muttered a bunch of threatened violence against me and everything. All because I was tired of hearing them fighting. My kids hear that. They come inside, they don't want to hang outside no more. They don't feel like it's safe. And that's the type of stuff that basically they want us to deal with personally. And, I can handle my own. I'm going to deal with the situation. It's not over with now. Definitely ongoing, And I got nothing against, the people that are, you do what you want in your house, whatever. But if it's going to affect the neighboring houses, then yeah, you gotta face some type of repercussions for sure. And it's not in my situation. I shouldn't be dealing with what goes on in everybody's houses. It's not me, But I got fed up with it that time, that moment. So I tagged the director in there. I was like, "Listen, man, you guys," I was like, "they're a bunch of fence sitters. They're too afraid to take action on this situation because they're afraid of the fallout from what will happen in the next election. So they feel the pressure, eggshells. Oh, I can't go after my kinfolk, dude. If your family member, like my cousin, was out there running amok and I'm in the office, I'd be the one out there getting after him the most. I'd be like, "Bro, Janasti, man, what the fuck? You're embarrassed, Get a grip on it." That's all I'm saying. You shouldn't step further away if it's, your kinfolk doing that. Even if it's not your kinfolk, you shouldn't step away. You should. And that's what we're missing in today's world. There's a lot of people out there are vulnerable, I can hold my own, and I'm going to deal with this for sure. If anybody threatens violence against me, it's one thing, But there's other people out there that can't defend themselves physically. That are afraid, that could be afraid to speak up. That don't have protection. And those are the ones that I'm concerned about. So yeah, I think the leadership is failing us in that area. It'd be hard for me to put that in a Facebook status. Feed the trolls. You understand what I'm saying, folks? And I'm not trying to bash anybody, really. I'm trying to promote healing. And that's another thing that we need to talk about on a community level is what are we doing to heal, to forgive each other? You know, I know there's a lot of play. There's a lot causing division between us. But it needs to stop if we're gonna, you know, do what if we're gonna make Wekoqmaq safe, and for our kids to grow up in. There's one thing that freaks me out, and I'm not comparing. I'm not trying to make any comparisons or anything like that. But when you look to the left, you look to your neighbors, you look to the right, and I'm not just talking in my community here. I'm just talking like other neighboring countries or neighboring. You can see the future, or you can see the consequences of how they handle it. So like we can avoid that just by simply, you know, healing, forget, you know, putting all that negativity in the past. But those are my 2 thoughts, my 2 cents. I'm rambling. I hope to bring you guys a bit more uplifting and positive message in the next recording I do. I hope I covered all bases. I know I didn't, because I'm just going off the top here, just freestyling it, if I may. I'm sure I'll get better at this the more I go along and the more comfortable I get. And I also want to have more light-hearted conversations with fellow community members, even politicians. Yes, I'm hard about, you know, the flaws in your decision-making process, but I think this will give you an opportunity to push back on my thoughts, on anybody's thoughts. Because election year is coming up, folks, in a year from now. And let's be honest, we can't fit all of Wekoqmaq's issues and then bring resolve to them in a freaking 30-day campaign. That's one thing, too, that bothers me, is the only time people want to talk about these issues are during election times. And then aside from that, nobody wants to hear it, huh? But I understand that part. People get dug out, though. Yeah. Don't get dug out, man. Just face the truth. If I speak the truth and you taste bitterness in your mouth, you taste giguasu, and you feel it inside, don't run from that feeling. Embrace it, because it's medicine. I people tell me the truth all the time. I face the truth. It hurts sometimes. But once you get past that, and you understand, and you see the greater picture, then you know, it leaves all doubt out of your mind. It's like going to blood work, eh? I went to blood work, damn straight. I make sure everything's straight. You know, I don't want nothing creeping up on me. And when I find when you go months without blood work or years, which I've done in the past. You know, now I go twice a year. But before I done that, man, that lingering doubt, man, festers into your mind, turns into something else. Fucks at you. Hey, I think that might have been my first swear word of this pod. I don't plan to swear too much. I try to keep it respectful, because I want to keep listeners captivated, which is hard to do nowadays, because a lot of people, they like them short videos. You know, everybody's in a rush. TikTok. I go do short ones too. I plan to do short ones. But until then, guys, welcome to this podcast, this nameless podcast, the Talking Circle podcast. If anybody has any names, I won't put them forward too. I was gonna call it T for Titties. I don't think that makes no sense. No, I was just bored. I'm bad for names, so I leave that up to whoever wants to put it forward. Well,